Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Let me start with the summer solstice, or estival solstice, also known as midsummer, occurs when a planet's rotational axis or geographic pole on either its northern or its southern hemisphere is most inclined toward the star it orbits. On the summer solstice, Earth's maximum axial tilt towards the Sun is 23.44 degrees. Likewise, the Sun's declination from the celestial equator is plus 3.44 degrees in the northern sky and minus 23.44 degrees in the southern sky. This happens twice each year, once in each hemisphere, when the Sun reaches its highest position in the sky as seen from the north or the south pole. On that note, let's have a look at a few photographs I saw this morning. A hazy sunrise arrives for what is supposed to be the hottest day for over 40 years in London. Gravesend, London Port Authority. This was from Girl About the Thames. Then midnight sun over Norway for the summer solstice, that's from Mars radar. And finally, we've had a spectacular summer solstice sunrise at Stonehenge. And that was from English Heritage. It's a real big heat wave I saw, particularly in Phoenix, where I'd been many years ago. Planes can't fly, it's just extraordinary. Macro thoughts, just let me leave something here and then we'll get to the subject at hand. Saudi 5-year default probability. This is from Holger. My trade would be to buy some protection. Home thoughts. I saw this tweet from Saruni, where we were over the weekend. The earth laughs in flowers. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Kalama Conservancy in Saruni Camp, Saburi is awash with desert roses. And then this was a photograph I took on my way to the Saruni Camp, where you have to climb up this very steep incline, and it's right up. It reminds me of the story of Alamut, which was the redoubt, but that's another story. And we came across these flowers on the way to the camp. Then I like this photograph, the Red Beach Panjin, the biggest wetland reed marsh in the world, hosts the most completed ecosystem that can be found. And I like this quote from Mother Theresa: every time you smile at someone, it is an action of love, a gift to that person, a beautiful thing, indeed it is. And early this morning, as I was scanning my feed, I saw this: from refugee camp to the cover of Allure magazine. Thank you for the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm so beyond grateful. Take a look at that as well. Political reflections. Theresa May's Queen's speech will be her first and last, Tories admit. Ms. May will also be forced to endure the embarrassment of putting her Queen's speech before Parliament without knowing if it can be passed, as she wrote it, having failed to secure the support of the Democratic Unionist Party, and their support is required for her Commons majority. And I conclude by saying, you see it in sport. Someone just chokes. Theresa May choked big. In part, I think she underestimated Jeremy Corbyn. He caught her off guard, but on a number of occasions she made the wrong call. Syria has the potential, in my opinion, to spiral right out of control. Australia has suspended airstrikes in Syria after Russia threatens US-led coalition aircraft. Precautionary measure after Russia warns it would treat aircraft west of Euphrates as potential targets following US downing of Syrian military jet. Now, the big news has come out of Saudi Arabia. The Saudi king has removed the crown prince from his post, replaced the crown prince with his favorite son known as MBS. Mohammed bin Salman. Saudi Arabia's King Salman has replaced Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef with his favoured son Mohammed bin Salman overturning the established succession order to ease his son's ultimate path to the throne. The Crown Prince was stripped of his role as second in line to the throne and removed from his post as Interior Minister, where he oversaw domestic security and counter-terrorism policy. The radical shift in royal succession made by royal decrees issued on Wednesday completes the elevation of the Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, architect of the oil-rich kingdom's ambitious economic reform plans and foreign policy. I concluded by saying, if you wished to hasten the Pahlavi moment, this is how to do it. The House of Sound is a big shot. Royal reshuffle bin Salman, you can see in this photograph, replacing bin Nayef, who's on the right. I'll take you back to something that the German spy agency put out, I think it was last year. This is the BND. The current cautious diplomatic stance of senior members of the Saudi royal family will be replaced by an impulsive intervention policy. Memo focuses particularly on the role of Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the 30-year-old son of King Salman, who was recently appointed Deputy Crown Prince and Defence Minister. The concentration of so much power in Prince Mohammed's hands harbours a latent risk that in seeking to establish himself in the line of succession in his father's lifetime, he may overreach. In another comment, Brookings said the prince had an unbridled ambition, has alienated many of his fellow princes, adding he has a reputation for arrogance and ruthlessness. Now, I take you back to a piece I wrote on the 8th of May 2017 when I picked up on that quote from now the newly appointed, newly minted Crown Prince, who said, how can I communicate with them, when he was speaking about Iran, while they prepare for the arrival of Al-Mahdi al-Muntazar? And I was saying then that crude oil is the elephant in the room, and that this is a far cry from the go-go days. Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela is at breaking point. Other capitals are going to run out of options. And I was talking about how the US shale cowboys have OPEC over a proverbial barrel. Shale can turn the tap on faster than OPEC can turn it off. And I said the OPEC go-go days of Sheikh Yamani, his prayer beads and Delphic pronouncements belong to yesteryear. Barkinder, the current OPEC Secretary General, is a poor imitation of Yamani and is playing with a set of cards that is stacked against him. Reserves have been depleted from Abuja to Riyadh, from Luanda to Caracas, and in all the oil-producing capitals in the world. And I wrote then, so many capitals are fiddling while sitting on a tinderbox and playing with matches. Then I quoted the Deputy Crown Prince, then now Crown Prince, who said about Iran, how can I communicate with them while they prepare for the arrival of Al-Mahdi al-Muntazar? And I said, this is deluded thinking at a time when things could seriously fall apart, turning and turning in the widening jihad. The falcon cannot hear the falconer, things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand, surely the second coming is at hand. And I said, we've experienced a precipitous downside move, and in my opinion, the exponential recent momentum is signaling there is further to go. My price target is $32 a barrel. Crude oil prices in extremis move exponentially. And I call it a Wizard of Oz moment. There is no one behind the cut. The market is primed to crash. In WTI, we're at $43.50. Speculation, MBN objected to confrontation with Qatar, and MBS used that as an opportunity to move on. That's from Martin Indyk. Haider al-Abadi, by the way, was in Riyadh as well, met with King King Salman bin Abdul Aziz. Of course, Iraq is very much in the Iranian camp. State Department, this is interesting, is getting frustrated with Saudi and its friends over the Qatar standoff. Have a look at this report from yesterday's briefing. I like this quote, "When will everything be okay?" Putin was asked. Everything will probably never be okay, but we have to try for it, he said. I like this quote from Karl Marx, who I follow on Twitter. There's a chance that Macron is a TED talk that took human form in a freak scientific experiment. I thought I was very clever. On the 12th of June, I did say that the arrival of the geopolitical wizard Emmanuel Macron on the world stage and what looks like a tectonic political shift in France. He said, "I want France to be a nation that thinks and moves like a startup. Entrepreneur is the new France." Many reports of some Grenfell Tower residents being reluctant to identify selves because of immigration status issues. And I think the number is massively undercounted here. I've got two suspicions. One, that there were a bunch of people who were not legal and therefore were not on the record. And secondly, there were probably some intelligent assets who were not on the record for different reasons as well. And the fact that I think they are intelligence assets tells me that there is more to the story than is currently being shared. Qatar's Emir made his first public appearance since the start of the Gulf dispute. I wrote a piece on the 12th of June about rolling over Qatar. And I said, returning to the Riyadh summit, where the kingdom committed 1/5 of its remaining forex reserves, which will fall off a cliff when oil slumps towards $32 a barrel, to a purchase of beautiful American arms. I called it a heist. The House of Sau's protector has always been the US, but this time an American president has excelled himself at extracting a mind-bogglingly egregious price. I have to surmise that the Emir of Qatar balked at that price, but then settled on $12 billion, and that his adversaries are saying, okay, we can always do it by force, because this looks like a mugging in a dark alley now. Put up a photograph of Doha taken from the sky. May 2016, I wrote about how Qatar was punching beyond its size. And August 2011, I wrote about soft power. And that's why they keep wanting to close down Al Jazeera. Here, Qatar's adversaries. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro, dollar, 111.34, dollar index. I said it was a trading buy, 97.75. Japanese yen, 111.16. Risk aversion. Swiss franc 0.9749. The pound, bad day yesterday, 126.09 now. Aussie dollar 0.7560. India rupee 64.635. South Korean won 1144.04. Rial 332.72. Egyptian pound 1815.05. I think the Egyptian pound is buy actually. Notwithstanding the fact clearly they are buying a lot of hard currency. South African Rand, that's another one that's tanked, 1307.99. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I did say it was a trading buy. You can see we're based out down there. Euro, dollar, 111.34. Lots of people optimistic, market long. We've come off. When measured by implied volatility, the pound trades like an emerging market currency versus the dollar. The currency with the highest volatility, of course, is the rand. WTI settled at $43.23 a barrel. It's now at $43.16. It's down 21% from the 2017 settlement peak of $54.45. On the 8th of May, I put out a crude oil price target of $32 a barrel. I'll put up a chart that David Inglis has put. I'm looking for 32. I called it a Wizard of Oz moment. No one behind the curtain, and that this market is primed to crash. I'll put up a Brent crude chart, which is also naturally heading lower. As I said yesterday, I expect a further dive and a crisis of the scale of the Dick Fuld crisis of 2008 in oil-producing capitals of the world. Interesting piece in the FT, why soybeans are the crop of the century. The fields outside Mohall, North Dakota, were until recently a collage of blue flax, yellow sunflowers, and amber wheat. But to many, but today many are uniform patches of green at the peak of the summer growing season. And just saying that, with planting almost complete, soybeans are likely to have unseeded corn as the mostly widely sown crop in the US. The triumph of the soybean hinges on incomes in China. The country's imports have trebled in the past decade to an estimated 93 million tons in the coming year, equal to 66 kilograms per person annually, or 5 cargo vessels a day. Delegates from China's Commerce Ministry are due in the soybean-rich state of Iowa next month to sign an agreement that would include a record purchase. Any supermarket shopper knows soya is a versatile foodstuff, the source of tofu and cooking oil. Agribusiness has also transmogrified beans into goods such as ink, carpeting, and biodiesel, but the soybeans plant's runaway popularity is down to its unparalleled protein content. Crushed, nearly 80% becomes soya meal, chickens, pigs, and fish that eat it fat and fast. Let's move on to Sub-Saharan Africa. Very good piece by Nick Turse in Harper's Magazine called Ghost Nation, an ethnic cleansing campaign by the government threatens to empty South Sudan. And then he's talking about a fellow called Simon Yakida. In his heart, Simon Yakida knew he was digging his own grave. A few days earlier, clashes between government troops and rebel forces near Bamourie, Yakida's village in South Sudan, had left 3 soldiers dead. Now the local military commander stood before him, gesturing at one of the bodies. He told Yakida, "Killing you is payback for this soldier." Bamourie, a farming community whose residents live in mud and thatch huts called tukels, lies in the southern part of the country. To feed his 2 wives and 9 children, Yakida, 32-year-old with close-cropped hair, in a wiry frame, grew cassavas, maize, and sorghum. The work had always been hard, but his life was peaceful. In recent months, however, the soldiers in the local barracks had grown increasingly abusive, detaining and mistreating citizens, accusing them of supporting the anti-government rebels. In February, the killings began. 3 young men were murdered by soldiers in retaliation for recent battlefield losses. Most of the village, including Yakida's family, had already fled to Uganda. Yakida was on his way when the troops arrested him. The soldiers watched as Yakida carved out a knee-deep hole. The commander ordered him to roll the corpse into the pit and cover it with soil. Famished, thirsty, and exhausted, Yakida complied. Once the work was done, the soldiers tied him to a wooden pole, the remnants of a rudimentary hut. "Where is the headman of the village?" the commander barked. "Where is Abu Salah?" Abu Salah is what people in Bamourie called Alex Kajoba, a night watchman at the local medical dispensary, who was known for advocating on behalf of villagers who had been detained at the barracks. It wasn't a question but a threat. Both men knew exactly where Abu Salah was and why he wouldn't be coming to Yakida's aid. Eventually, the soldiers, members of Sudan People's Liberation Army, the SPLA, untied Yakida and ordered him to sit on top of a fresh grave. They bound his hand and ankles. One of the soldiers offered a salute, then cocked his weapon. The commander ordered him to fire and he pulled the trigger. Yet 2 days later, Yakida stood before me, wearing a grey polo shirt with Marks and Spencer emblazoned on it. Very powerful story, and I've been complaining about this for a while. It's just outrageous what's going on. It's ethnic cleansing, pure and simple. President Mugabe is said to temper his wife's ambition amid Zimbabwe army anger. Robert Mugabe has moved to rein in his wife's ambition to succeed him after the nation's intelligence chief warned that her campaign may stoke political violence and faces opposition from within the military. 3 members of the ruling party's Politburo said. South African all-share is up 1% year-to-date and is at a 2017 low, a January 2017 low. S&P warned South Africa over meddling with central bank independence, that its rating could be cut deeper into junk territory if the government meddles with the critical independence of the country's central bank. They're really trying to, aren't they? South African Airways in talks with banks as deadline looms. South African Airways is in talks with lenders about reviewing the terms of about $692 million worth of loans due at the end of the month, and may have to tap government debt guarantees that are keeping the state-owned airline in operation. One bank has told SAA that it wants to be repaid by the end of June deadline. SAA has been in contact with its lenders to renegotiate the management of its loans, a normal occurrence when loans become due and payable, the airline's acting CEO, Musa Zwane, said in an email statement. The renegotiation of the terms of the loans are ongoing, and SAA is optimistic that the airline will continue to operate. Dollar versus rand back above 13, and obviously the political risk is front and center. Egyptian pound 18.1507, Nigerian all share up a huge 27.91% and at 25-month highs. Ghana Stock Exchange up 14.68%. Tanzania has banned a newspaper for 2 years as it tightens its media clampdown. The privately owned Mawio paper was banned for 24 months on June 15, with the government suspending both its print edition and online platforms. Tanzania's Information Minister Harrison Mwakyembe said in a statement in Kiswahili that the paper was suspended for publishing photos of 2 former presidents, Benjamin Mkapa and Jakaya Kikwete, on its June 15 to 21 edition, and linking them to a government probe into allegations of misconduct in the mining sector. We are extremely concerned that Tanzania is using public order as an excuse to frustrate the flow of information and public debate. I like this picture of the day from Africa_com, sand dunes in Atlantic Ocean in Sandwich Harbour in Namibia. Ethiopia's annual fuel consumption was about 3.5 billion litres last year. That's interesting. I have to compare that with Kenya. Raila Odinga drags military into election, rigging claims. That goes back to the point Kaniki was saying to Deutsche Welle. Both sides communicate that the elections have already been won. It's very likely that whoever loses this year's election will head to the streets to challenge the outcome. Both sides communicate that the election's already been won. If someone loses, it will be the Electoral Commission or the law courts, but not the ones who receive fewer votes. Nairobi all shares up 14.55% this year. It's at 22-month highs, though it's corrected the last 2 sessions. KenGen is up 52.586% at a 2017 high. National Bank up 64.44% in June. CMA did not stop the rally. Mumia Sugars rallied an eye-popping 73.33% in June on nothing in particular. NSE 20 is up 12.99% and at 11-month highs. Uchumi workers like Nakumat are yet to get their May salaries. This is a wide open moment for a new entrant or someone like Carrefour to really go after this market, because all the other operators are seriously in trouble. Once again, thank you.